This is already the third forum, and today we are welcoming the participants, which are Volodymyr Panchenko, who is the content director of the KIEF International Economic Forum, deputy head of the management board of this public organization of the Center of Development of Market Economy. We have Ola Havrish, the deputy editor-in-chief of the business Czasopis, and the broadcaster Viktor Halasuk, who is the head of the committee of the Verkhovna Rada for Entrepreneurship and Industrial Policy, Taras Lemeniuk, who is the reporter, and Andriy Blinov, who is the head of the Radio Vesti economic projects. Today at the forum, we have already discussed a number of strategic issues which are of serious long-term prospects, and now it would be good not to just get distracted, but to talk about the challenges which the Ukrainian business is going to face in the nearest future and what we have to start doing right now to make use of the opportunities provided by the fourth industrial revolution. I would like to ask you, Volodymyr, how, in your opinion, the 4.0 revolution is going to influence our economy in the nearest future? Well, there is the long-term and there is the short-term prospect and impact. Long-term prospects have been discussed during our forum, and it's understandable that this is going to be a technology change, and unfortunately, we failed to fully disclose all the issues. They are still the matter for the discussion at the next forums, because we still haven't cleared what is going to be the place of Ukraine within the fourth revolution. But the only thing which is absolutely clear is that Ukraine will not be among the top leaders in any case. And we have not yet seen this, either from the point of view of the readiness of business and from the point of view of readiness of the state and infrastructure. That's why I'm not going to talk about technological things. They have become quite well known not only because of our forum. I would like to talk about the short-term prospects and results of the fourth industrial revolution. They are that, in fact, the world has proclaimed that the year 2016 is the end of neoliberalism. What influence will it have on the world? Two opposite influences. Influence number one is that the paradigm of global expansion of markets and technologies is over, and therefore we're going to face the new era of local, regional, interregional cooperation and trade, and both in economics and in economy and production alliances. So that is what is going to happen. That is a positive thing for Ukraine, because it means that as a poor economy, Ukraine can work off the concept of development of weak and poor economies, wherein they have to choose the priorities and to stimulate them and further develop. There is an opposite consequence of this end of neoliberalism, which lies in the fact that the only moment the end of neoliberalism was proclaimed, at the same time the fight with the end of liberalism was proclaimed, and the IMF and the World Bank and the majority of national entities, in particular G20 countries, are going to fight with us and put to neoliberalism. I mean, with the era of protectionism, which is coming to replace neoliberalism, because it is not somewhere in the middle. It's up to one point, and then it comes to the bottom. So it's like going from top to bottom, from bottom to top. That is what is told by Trump, that we are taking jobs from Mexico and moving them all to Texas. So there are a lot of things the developed world has started talking about and started doing, and it has some practical results. And this information, luckily, is already with us. We realize this. So the fight with protectionism in the global scale is a positive phenomenon, because protectionism, as we remember it after the war, that we had got set up, then it was replaced with the WTO, because that way we achieved 100%, which are still available in some industries, and they blocked the possibilities for mutual development. So there is going to be a fight against that. But for Ukraine, the thing which is bad is that we don't have the institutional framework. The Ministry of Economy is very poor with us from the point of view of opportunities for holding any negotiations in terms of international trade. And therefore, all the situations that are going to arise are going to be not win-to-win situations. We're going to lose in them. And the businesses will come to know about the lost fights sometime after they are lost by the bureaucrats, because bureaucrats will not involve business in the discussions or will play the game of yielding, seemingly supporting the investment and businesses, but actually working against the Ukrainian business. Therefore, this is a negative point which we are waiting for in the nearest future, in the nearest years, and there will be a strike after a strike and a collapse after collapse, because we have the WTO agreement and this bilateral agreement with the EU, which determine the framework for international trade and therefore the framework for inter-mutual relationship, for interrelationship. Just in a concise way. Thank you, Volodymyr. And by the way, we had the talk show format, so right away, if you have any question, you may raise your hand and you will be asked questions. Roman will approach you with the microphone, right? The microphone doesn't work. So I can agree absolutely with all of your conclusions, but for one, concerning G20, willing to conserve this neoliberal condition, because if we are careful about reading the Hangzhou consensus and the communique, so they clearly define a plan with all the indicators, roadmaps on innovations, on new industrial revolutions, on digital economy, and the plan of structural reform which determines the indicators in all the directions as to how much funding we need for science in non-public institutions. Also, what legal framework has to be adopted to provide incentives, even China showed the initiative to create the World Institute, which would develop special tax legislation that would provide incentives for those new development waves and the new paradigm development. So I think that G20 will reject this idea, this neoliberalism. Well, I just meant to say that the starting role of our point. Well, thank you for the remark, for the supplementation, because just I have a fever after all the latest discussions. But I do agree with you probably that we don't have a plan of working within the fourth industrial revolution. That was my main point. I wanted to say, well, the developed countries, including G20, have a plan, though the neoliberals say that there can't exist any plan, and the plan doesn't exist. Oleg, the question to you. Every week you have the Persi Spalta new program, broadcasted program, and you communicate with SMEs on a permanent basis. What are the modes among the SMEs? What are our businessmen waiting for in the nearest future? Do they think about industry in terms of what they need or not? Well, I will divide my answer into two parts. In the first one, I will talk about the problems Ukrainian businesses are concerned about, because our program mainly deals with the businessmen who are the top managers of largest companies and the top people in the I communicate with those people, and I do realize what they are concerned about. Therefore, they are concerned not with the innovations. They are concerned about the thing that we have unstable situation, and we have war. This is a factor influencing the investment into Ukraine. We claim to say that corruption is problem number one, but no, still a lot of companies work in the world where there is a high level of corruption, but there is certain stability and there is no war. And the risk of complete destruction, and being a different country tomorrow is the risk number one. Number two is, for example, I communicated with one of the directors, and he said that now we think that, for example, uh, uh, they have the Zaporizhia plant, and they say that they have to wait for people to invest. Why? Because the less money is in the market, the less people can afford, and the less they invest. And the second key point why some companies even leave the Ukrainian markets. The third one is radar, which is more important than corruption. For example, we have the Rikana company, which built a plant, and it had a certain share package, and even the London court said they are the owners, but the package was taken away from them through radar attack. By one of the partners of Minik, Mr. Kononenko and Mr. Poroshenko, so we know who did it. We know that in the country we have these radar attacks, and this is a very serious problem in relation to the property because somebody may attack your assets. This is the third problem. The fourth problem is corruption on a daily basis, but I may note that, for example, okay, entered the Moscow officials and Moscow markets, and somehow they found okay, IKEA funded the school, but in that way they were given an opportunity to exist in the market. So they found kind of a compromise with those officials, but definitely, this is not still a success. It cannot be called a success story. Then there is a problem of inequality to the law. In one of the panels, somebody said that when they tried to do something in the practical block, so they saw that a lot of optimization schemes are used, and taxes are high with us. 55% of the profit. Well, that's really a lot because in other countries it's like maybe 30%, 25. That would be quite a proper level for Ukraine, but we have to lower it down. But actually, this makes people unwilling to invest. And as far as local investors are concerned, so the credits are very expensive. And nevertheless, we also think about innovations because we have stopped our relationship with the Russian market, and therefore the turnover is smaller, and we have to be looking for new markets. And our markets are competitive. Everybody realizes that we just unwilling to give the serious investment to the unstable markets. Well, there are some origins and some initiatives which are started, which are launched, like certain plants which are being built, then radio technology or electronics equipment, or JDing, American company which produces something in the Transcaucasian region. So they are developing some small areas, some small sectors, and it's of interest that in Ukraine, over the recent period of time, a couple of plants have been built in Transcaucasia that started producing some products for export to Europe. So we could start doing something about it. And there is example of Tron Louis company which has launched a plant for agrarians, for the farmers to know what is necessary for the fields, what is not necessary. So it's kind of analysis, a consultancy company. They did it in Poland before. So these things can appear the risk capacity due to education, due to science, due to mathematical calculations, but we also know about their startups, then some deals for $1 million. All those spheres could be further developed. And definitely the businessmen are thinking about this, but they are impeded by the 7 problems which I have enumerated. We have to solve those 7 problems for us to really have investment, a serious level of investment. But I've had a talk with Mikhail Friedman, actually, who is a Russian entrepreneur who lives in Israel, but his businesses are in Russia. And last year, he placed his Alpha Bank here. I asked, why did he do this? He said, I said, actually, you are investing into Ukraine while everybody is leaving. Why are you doing this? And he said that 2 things. The first thing I'm doing is that still in Ukraine there is a certain future in which I believe. And secondly, I just communicated with the people with the bank and with the people in the streets, just in Lviv, in Kiev, in some other cities of Ukraine. I just was working without security. And I saw that young people have more belief in changes in the country. There are active people, there is new generation. They believe that they can change something in the country, that this is their country, and in fact, this is a symptom that there should be investment made here. It's worth investing. And the second thing is also that, well, when there is blood in the streets, when there is a war, everything is cheap. And there is also one of the like seeming pluses because some people invest into that because they can cheaply buy something, and they really need the period. We live in the period where the people who put Ukraine at stake at the moment, who focus on Ukraine, may become very rich, but they may lose everything. But business does realize all this, and I think that gradually they will be developing further on and on. But the key issue is to solve those 7 problems I mentioned. Thank you, Oleg. Victor Halasuk, I would like to ask you to give the floor to you and to ask you because during the well, you're the representative of the legislative authorities, and during your yesterday's speech, you indicated that Ukraine needs not just reform but innovative development. And this development could result from only a well planned state governmental policy. Do you see any symptoms, any signs of such policy, of such strategy? Thank you for the question. Well, in fact, definitely, a country is like a large company. There is the same logic behind that. We offer something to the world. We need something from the world. And there is always the search for the balance of interests and your niche, your segment, your plant in the global world. And therefore, um, here we have been talking about the fourth revolution, about globalization, and I'm sure that it cannot be stopped. We cannot have retrospective things happening, and we have to take this into account, and we have to get adjusted to this process and to have our own strategy and tactics in relation to it. But otherwise, it will just pressurize us, and we will be on the margins of history the way it would be happen to any raw materials country. Uh, we have to look 10, 15 years ahead and take into account the technological, economic, and social changes and demographic trends which are now happening that will possibly affect our place and our niche in this world. This is not a certainty. That is not only one scenario. There are a lot of options, and we have to opt for the scenario which is most beneficial for our country and which will enable us to provide the maximum capitalization of our resources and our best resources. Our HR, though natural resources are no less important, and we are lucky about those natural resources, and taking into account those target guidances through creation of the conditions by the state for the private investor to come to the market and to move in this direction, we can really lay down the way to high quality prosperity and different quality of respect for us in the world. And this is a comprehensive task. In fact, the fourth industrial revolution brings with it, in its wake, a systemic, profound change, both in terms of technology and social and social aspect and economy of the world. Whether we take this into account or not, in some time, we will get in a certain part of this landscape, global landscape. And I'm sure that this moment shouldn't be chaotic. It should be well planned. We have to keep on with, so to say, developing maybe not a strategy, but the drive which has been happening up till now. When Ukraine is still the object and not the subject in all the spheres of relationships, ending up with international relationship. Well, I will try to do my best to once for Ukraine to come to the economic forum in Davos, not for the rich people having billions and millions to come to the foreign partners and to tell, please give 1 more billion of the IMF credit charge because our country is very poor and we need your support. This is a deficitary logic and a very poor approach to state governance. And I'm sure that with time, this approach will go away, will disappear, and we will come to a regular Davos forum with not with the request, but with a proposal. And in this sense, in this respect, I would like to recall our talk with one of the most well-known Ukrainians, the Roman Club member Bogdan Havrilishin, who always stresses that we talk about our demand for the support to be provided by the world for us to survive. But in fact, Ukraine is so rich in different types of resources, and we could give so much to the world. And somehow we do not treat our country from this angle. And I think that the civil society and expert and businessman's task is the strategic vision in terms of seeing those global niches where Ukraine could make a rich and noble country. This is a whole number of sectors which have been mentioned at the forum. This is development of the foundation which we have in the form of agriculture. This is foodstuff industry. This is agri-tech. That's the thing Mr. Utkins talks about. This is a mix which covers other technologies behind this. This is also medicine. That is IT industry, which will get a whole number of new industries, including information weapons, which will have the scope of tens of billions of US dollars. And the point is just whether we have a share within this global product in those spheres or not. Therefore, I think that we really have not to reflect that much and just to act within the paradigm which has been provided by inertia of our development, because it has led us not to a very good point. We need to change the angle, the prism through which we look at the world, and we have to move to the new logic of talking to international partners, not in terms that we need support, but in terms of providing the resources. And we have just to increase the operational efficiency of using them. I'm talking about our black soil, about the forests, about other natural resources, and about other assets, and they will enable us to become influential and effective in terms of the players of the world market. I'm getting back to what I talked at the plenary session. People need the state just to create the conditions within which the potential could be used where people could become happy with every generation. They will be protected and implement their talents. Well, Ukrainians are a very talented nation. Therefore, I think that the global trend must lie in the future of this type of relationship. And to conclude, I would like to stress that, well, you asked me whether I see any signs of this policy. I think that over the recent times, some small initiatives are being taken in this respect. It's impossible to implement a strategy without the set of tools. This is just scholastics. And therefore, we have this set of tools, and they are used in other countries. I'm talking about economic development, in particular, the tools like export credit agency, public-private partnership agency of supporting SMEs, small businesses, like in the US, or industrial parks, the way they have in Turkey, in Poland. And I think that today we have a critical mass of like-minded people in the parliament. And today, I asked Prime Minister the question and provided our proposal, what we offer to be done in the country to involve large-scale investment and to stop being a materialist country. We just suggest that we should intensify investment stimulus incentives in the industrial parks and to introduce international arbitration in the territories of industrial parks for the investors to be sure to be protected and for the international law to work there, to be applied there. Because, you know, if we haven't yet made deep judicial reform, so let's try to arrange at least the centers of new reality. And there could be the export credit agency for us to support our non-raw materials export out for the people to know about us in the world by our carriages, by our planes and our high-tech products and ships, and not by cereals and corn. Next week, we will have the Committee of Industry Development set up with the government, and the Prime Minister said that you're reading my ideas. I support all those initiatives, and really, that is so. So we are working at the operational plan of the implementation of those ideas into life. So I think these are the first signs of such a well-planned approach. How well it works, well, we will see, but we will do our best because we are to be judged not by our intention but by the result. Thank you, Victor. Taras, you as a reporter dealing with international items, can you tell us about the support we could expect from our international partners on the way towards 4.0 industry? Will other countries perceive us as potential competitors or not? Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me for such a panel discussion. It's my pleasure to be here. I'd like to tell you that it's not a secret for anybody that investment is somewhere on the border of Ukraine, but they are not entering because of a number of factors, which I hope have been discussed at this conference over those 2 days, and which have been voiced here. So far, we are perceived, as Victor has mentioned, as the raw material country. Therefore, we sell grain to Italy, and then we buy spaghetti from Italy. And the problem of our market, that is the problem of our market. Therefore, the world, the global world, so far perceives us as the country of raw materials, while instead we should give the world an absolutely different product with some added value. And the problem of Ukraine is that we are not organized. Poverty is where people are disorganized. Um, we may start personally with ourselves or with the community which lives in a certain territory. What do I mean? I mean that this organization is explained by the fact that when authorities appear, new rule appears, there appears a new strategy, but there is no consistency in the strategy, and there is an update of the strategy, but there is a change, and it's like the strategy is being moved on, but they are rewriting, just rewriting it, and for some reason there is an absolute new way. By this I mean disorganization. We cannot offer any transparent rules of the game for investors. I quite often communicate with Italians, and Italians keep claiming that we are ready to invest into Ukraine, but we are not informed, we are not aware of what is happening, and we are afraid because we are not sure about the rules of the game and protection of our investment. That is the thing we should provide the investors with. Come to us, come to our markets, but don't buy our raw materials, but we help us produce the product. Let's move to the lower level, um, to the villages. What do people do there? Classical agriculture, classical field work, and then drinking some alcohol. Uh, People don't work towards the local products. Getting back to Italy, sorry for repeating the same idea, but I must say that after the Second World War, that was a country which was building up its economy and the SMEs development. Today, we have famous world brands. I wouldn't mention them, but they developed in that way after the World War. So people organized into small association cooperatives and created their general high-quality products and sold them in their markets and sold them in the external markets. And therefore, in that way, Italy raised. The same may happen in Ukraine. Why should a peasant buy bread brought from 60 kilometers, so if he can produce it himself, together with the community? This should be a community-driven product. Well, it could be sold generally not in the cities, but just in the community. But this market could be created for himself. This is not the market created by the global companies. Uh, I think that this is today's hidden aim of investors. We need to understand the investors, but to direct them in the right way, and for us to dictate the rules of the games, and for us to generate the product which is be sold abroad. Therefore, if we had that type of logic, and if we organized it all in this way, the way we we are trying to do with our economy, I think that G20 could be G21, and this 21st country would be could Ukraine. Well, thanks. Thanks for such a forecast. Thank you, Taras. Together with you, I just want to make the conclusions of the forum. So, Andriy, over 2 days, you did the live broadcast from our forum from the having interviews with representatives of businessmen. So, I would like to ask you, what is the role which you feel? What is the role of the economic forum for the Ukrainian business and for the politicians? Well, good afternoon to everyone. Quite often, the KIEF International Forum, well, somebody was trying to call it the Eastern Ukrainian Davos or almost Davos Forum. So it's not that way, but the incentive which was provided by the previous forum is repeated here. The forum is the platform for census. Because if we talk about different interviews with about dozens of guests to the forum, and their views are these are absolutely different people, and different recipes have been provided. There are different points of view, and the statistics is absolutely the same as according to the polls of Ukrainians. Ukrainian residents, thirds three-fourths of them say that the country is moving in in the wrong direction. Well, liberalism, as Mr. Panchko says, is still not over. The model is not over. It's quite clear just that we have faced the dead end. And the model, the temporary model which acted in the world and in the development of Ukraine, just reached the dead end. That is the mono orientation you remember as the means of choice. You remember EU or customs union, which was always reminding me of the anecdote that, okay, do you love your father or your mother more? He says both. No, you have to choose. This is a wrong absolutely wrong direction, and I think that we are gradually changing this tradition. And Davos has been talking about this, and everybody keeps talking about this today. And the state of financial markets, relatively high price of gold, relatively low price of oil, shows that the seventh global format is going to be launched in the world. And educated people realize that it's going to include a whole number of directions like biochemistry, then the chips implemented in persons, new technology of data transfer, robototechnics, technology. And for Ukraine, here of greatest importance is the fact that the sixth step, which was connected with monetization, well, we somehow skipped it. We failed. And we remember that in spite of the fact that Ukraine is to a certain extent the family to the computers, but it's not the one for the small businesses and for IBM. And therefore, now this format is being initiated, and the perception of people is absolutely different. The main factor, according to all the polls and surveys held by the EBA together with Dragon Capital, is high corruption. But today I had two investors who said that corruption is okay. There is another corruption. There is corruption which is a destructive one when your hands are tied. But when corruption accelerates the process, so there is nothing that much scary. It means that these investors are non-European ones. They are of the Asian vector, and they have a specific attitude to corruption. We have to realize that there is a difference in this attitude, and you cannot overcome the share of illegal economy, which is 40%. It's impossible within the short-term run, and therefore we don't have to set the task. Is our forum the place for business meetings? Is it the lobbying platform? I guess yes, because the word party was quite often mentioned here. But anyway, we have a discussion here. It's important, but the discussion is either between the like-minded people or between the people who are on the different polars. We don't have any representative of the Ukrainian government. and I think that the economic model we were trying to develop is reaching the dead end, and therefore, when Stepan Kubiv or Vladimir Groisman were talking during the first plenary session, well, they they talked not about that much practical steps. They talked more about the framework concept. We are talking more about a different system, that Ukraine needs to raise the level of its added value of its products. Eh, but how do we do this? And where is the main impediment? The impediment will be prompted by the Davos Forum to us. Uh, because we have the different trainings and we have different global indexes of global competitiveness, and you know that it was written that Ukraine was number 79, now it's 85 in this rating. Well, maybe that's because the recent data, the recent success stories are not yet reflected in this. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that there are 12 components within these ratings, and in three of them, which is institutional basis, state institutions, the system, the financial market, and macroeconomy. Um, these are the ones where actually nothing is happening in Ukraine, nothing good is happening in Ukraine. And this is a catastrophe. We cannot do anything here, we can just start up the restorative process. As far as the financial sector is concerned, so the key issue is the starting of the new markets, because the country is one lag in the past. Well, 25 years have passed, but it doesn't mean that we haven't renamed the streets. The main thing is that the social system of Ukraine is oriented at the Bismarck scheme. You remember the way it was, his pension system. Now we have a single social contribution, social fee, which was paid by 10 million people. The number of pensioners in the country is 12.5 million people. There is no correlation one to one. So it means that there are very many dependents, more of those dependents than the people who pay this fee. Well, we can execute the pensioners, so we can raise the pension age, but that's not the way out. And for example, we have the concept which was applied by the neighboring Poland. We didn't do this step. It's a typical example of the weaknesses and poorness. And this is the issue of land. I know that. Well, maybe Mr. Grossman is not going to agree to me, to what I say, but we know about the facts that sometimes that now in the parliament we have the prolongation of the moratorium, which is now existing. Yes, we have landlords, and we have the agrarian panel, we have the facilities, we have landlords that's available, and there is lease land. But let's try to conclude contracts on land lease. But can we launch now the land market? Just start it as a market without the law? I don't think so. And by the way, this is the international criteria. Um, and this draft law has not been um, voted for, and we will have to clear it out what is going to happen with the International Monetary Fund with us, whether they will give us the tranche or not. But the problem is that this is also an institutional failure, because if you say A, you have to say B. That is understandable, and this, and not the fight against corruption, should be the main basis for the public-private partnership, which we have in the deep sense. Yes, I think that Volodymyr has some reply, right? Thank you, Andrei. Yes, I think that the discussion between neoliberalism and protectionist and pragmatist is still. I'm about no, I'm not a neoliberalist. Yes, you're a balanced expert. I realize this, but for the sake of reporters and journalist ethics, you have and truth, you have said that there are not that many people like this here. Not because they are not invited, but because they are dogmatists. They are the people who are Jehovah's Witnesses in those ties, going here and there and showing something. These are Mormons now. These are not Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes, I'm so vexed because I'm not mixed. This because I'm not a sectant. But I mean the attitude to any idea. This leads to self-limitation. I had one friend who became a Zen Buddhist, and I saw what I saw on TV when he was sweeping the road, not to step over the insect, not to kill any insect. But well, that is already a pole, uh, an extreme. So we must have the reforms and we must have the platforms for discussions. They have to be available. But it seems to me that this forum, the positive thing about this forum is that um, um, one post in Facebook can change the voting in the Verkhovna Rada much more than the corruption and the bribes did back in their times. So I think that your work, reporters and journalists' work, has become more influential, and that about that positive thing. A forum has become an alternative and a platform for alternative nihilism and the lack of professionalism. We didn't recall Mr. Yatsenyuk with any good word. You must say that Mr. Groisman still had a stable position. Maybe not the position, this is a position which we would have, but Mr. Yatsenyuk, the former prime minister, generally told that there shouldn't be any strategy. At all, and therefore verbally we state that the strategy should be available, and Mr. Semenozhenko academician said us that the strategy and even a detailed step-by-step plan is available in the countries which, according to neoliberalist ideas, are the most liberal countries, still have the step-by-step plan. And this plan is not the one dealing with the judicial reform or anti-corruption, but this is one related to the steps of moving towards new technologies. Therefore, I do agree that the KIEF Forum is a certain platform shifted to a certain point, but this is good if neoliberalism create the same platform for neoliberalism, and I can see the way the ideas of my former students change, my colleagues change after they go to some training or some exchange program. So and they change and they become like those Mormons. This is happening. This is reality, and we are subject to certain influences in terms of what you do, and you have to work with this. Uh, and still, I'm happy that we can criticize each other freely, and that we have the platform for doing this. Well, if reporters were not killed in the country, it would still be very, very good. We have a question from the audience. It's very good that you are talking about this new Davos wave and this information coming to Kyiv finally. But it seems to me that on the second day of the forum, we lack the intention which was voiced very clearly in the expert ideas of Davos. We're talking about creative economy, which was called by the Davos Forum experts the new growth model. Just meant the figures: 25 million jobs created throughout the world following the study of Ernst & Young done to the UNESCO order, and 7 million in Europe, the third place in terms of dynamics of the jobs created. 709 $1 billion was the investment of the sector into the economy. And well, we somehow lose out. We don't have a look at this sector. Right, we do need new industry, new industrial policy, but it's going to take place only if we have the science, art, engineering, and design formula, if we follow it. Art and design, it seems to me, are left out within our strategy, and they have to be taken into account because design is something that takes into account the modes of the consumers, which are fast changing. You know, we have the Bismarck reform system, the pension system of the Bismarck time, but the reform is also of the Bismarck time. Yes, maybe this is the freight. According, I just was a slip of the tongue, but according to freight. Yes, but we have to work with culture, which would help us to change discourse and to change the paradigm. We have to stimulate it. Yes, next year this will be at the forum this year. Unfortunately, we didn't take it into account at this forum, but you're right about the need to include this. But as far as creativity is concerned, so I must tell you, so those who failed to come to all the panels because it was impossible. So this forum is different, and I don't know what has to be done with this next year. We have fantastic speakers, but we use them just 5%. We have Arturo Guillermo. He has been here, but he's the father of the pension reform, and we had a talk with him yesterday in the evening. And he is rather an elderly man, but he told me about the Pinochet, about the stadium, and about this execution of Pinochet, the way it was connected to the pension system. So this is a person who really did it with his hands, and who told me right away this that we are at the zero situation. We don't have the pension reform. We have the pension account with a negative balance, just 150 billions, which are increasing. But he said, never mind. That was what we went through. Just this is a starting point. So do the start, but never tell the way the Magomals claim, the insects saying that we will increase the pension age. This is a very strange thing. Mr. Yatsenyuk just told about this because the IMF told about this. There are a lot of things behind that that could be done. This is people's capitalism, though it is labeled in a different way. That is when you don't pay taxes from your salary, but you just pay a certain amount to your pension account, and then no entrepreneur, no hired employer can pay you an untransparent salary, an official salary in the envelope, because then he underpays to your savings account, pension account. And if we go without thanks to people, and if we tell them that, okay, we now claim that this money, which is now called the taxes and which are flowing into the state budget, they are going to your pension account. And we could invent a lot of other things here. So such people as Mr. Sheckman, well, to see this Nobel laureate, one of the organizers of the well-developed Vienna Forum. Well, he came specifically here because he wanted to go somewhere to Tehran to meet him because they had to have a meeting in Moscow, but he just made his trip here. When he came to know that Mr. Shachman is coming to our forum, he said that, okay, I'm coming. He was happy that he met Mr. Shachman here. Then Gary Jacobs. This is a person who is a large-scale person from the world governments, and he is among the people who are in the Renaissance Club and are within art and science, and they think about the change in the mentality and the conscience. Our Eric Reinert. This is also another VIP, a distinguished person. He's just going along the Institutska street, and we think that he's an ordinary person, but he's not an ordinary person. You can actually have a personal meeting face to face to him and just place him pat him on the shoulder. So that is very strange that we don't use. These people need longer lectures, and then you will feel all that energy which we as the organizers feel more, because before that we have the opportunity to talk with them, and we talk after that, but the audience doesn't reach this because we are pressed for time. We don't feel the drive which we feel, and we'll try to somehow increase this drive for you next time. Just 20 seconds, a small remark to this creative economy. I do agree that we have to provide more opportunities to those unique, distinguished speakers, because really there were a lot of points when I had 15 minutes, but I wanted to tell more. And it's not just a moment of discussion, but this is an element of what I would like to do, because sometimes we talk about specific points only when we already talk with the person. And now we are under elaboration the new industrial policy, which is based on new technologies aimed at increasing the added value and reindustrialization. Just we have to shift a little bit the vector. And the second approach is wrong, I think. We don't have to apply it and just to understand it within this category. Yeah, there has been a fantastic speaker. It was not Mr. Shahman, but it was Alexander Harumayko. It was at the industry panel, and I saw him. So you can raise your hands, those who came to the industrial panel. A lot of people, right? So this person has invented the thing which the whole firm Hewlett Packard came to this idea over 20 years. In the night time, and I was actually had to talk with this man. So this. With the Turkish people, sorry, and they started telling me that they and there is an interpipe, and I'm trying to acquaint them to each other as the organizer. I have to do this, and I told them that okay, here are metallurgy industry representatives, and they say that I don't have anything to talk about to you about, because you're talking about the clusters where the world of design and the end products and well all the things which were told by Saturn representative. Um, he said that now we had the steel cluster where you can just have the idea that you will make smaller pipes or pipes with the same diameters. And we have a whole chain of companies come to our technical area, and we will provide it with this. But then somebody objects to the idea, and no, nothing is done. Yeah, I would also like to provide some reflections. The prospects are great in the creative economy, but so far I don't see any contradiction between what is happening in the traditional industries, including the ones which are based on natural resources, and creative economy. Because, for example, if we have a look at the development of software and all the things which are related to this industry. So we are now, for example, having in the second reading the draft law, which is going to change the export of services, where it would be sufficient to have the invoice as a business accounting document. There will be that artificial level of control which we now have. I think that we will somehow overcome this resistance in the parliament. But when we are talking about some industries associated with trade, with raw materials, I can give you just one example, and it will show you everything. The forestry industry, the timber processing industry. I was frustrated when when the moratorium was adopted, and I started dealing with the issue, and I compared it to the situation with Poland, and I saw that the area of forest is the same as in Poland, but at the same time our forestry, our wood, paper industry are $2.5 billion, while with Poles this industry is $24.7 billion. So you see a 10 times difference, and that is the problem, because we have to plan. We have to dream about great things, but we have to think about creative economy, but we have to plan. And at the same time, we don't have to forget about the fact that we have something already in place, and we have to make use of the precious natural resources and take the most of this. And we have the best example to learn, which is Poland, a very good success story. And if we have a look at the overall scope of Ukrainian export, which is almost half of the GDP, is about $38 billion, while with the Poles, only paper and wood industry, forestry, is 25, almost $25 billion. So is it comparable? You understand that we are very much lagging behind. Definitely, creative economy has great prospects, and only in one place of Chicago there is a lot of research and development and software engineering, mainly these are intangible products, and 60 billion in the city of Chicago annually, and 300,000 Chicago residents work in it. While with us, we export only 38 billion, which are mainly raw materials, unprocessed raw materials, or the products which have been poorly processed, so some primitive raw materials. When I tell that, well, you're talking about this export and credit agency, you're promoting it so much, but claim that it must work in Ukraine because every year we're becoming more and more the country of raw materials. In 2010, the share of raw materials export was smaller than it's now. It has raised. It was 54, now it's 62. So where are we going? What kind of development of creative economy could we be talking about if we are just embezzling and selling the resources we have? So yes, we have to preserve the foundation which we have, which is agriculture, and even if it's a raw materials based one, we have to build up the added value on its basis. But still, well, not every country has such a good foundation for development of shipbuilding or carriage buildings, and all the carriages, all the ships, and not let alone the planes. The future is for that. But we definitely it's better to have the good raw materials for that. But I don't see any controversy there. Just we have to be pragmatic about each sector of the economy, and he must have a look at what we lack there. Somewhere we lack raw materials, somewhere we lack HR. Everywhere we lack good taxation and good credits, economic diplomacy, which was meant by one of the speakers. Because our government doesn't lobby the interests of Ukrainian producers and not the interests of foreign partners in Ukraine, just for them to come. So, what do we have to do to meet up your expectations? I think that we still have to start this win-to-win partnership with other countries. Yes, there is a question there. So you have recalled Gary Jacobs, and at yesterday's discussion, he suggested a quick success recipe due to innovations of agrarian complex to radically increase its productivity. How do you assess this piece of advice? And the question is addressed to to any volunteer. Well, I could comment on that. I think that it's an important piece of advice. That is what I've been talking about. We have a powerful foundation, but we don't use it to the full. We don't use it to have some commercial profits and benefits from this. I've been talking about this for many times because we sell cereals and grain, and then we buy spaghetti, and we buy from Europe some furniture though it's based on our wood and our timber, and by the Ukrainians who went to get employed there because they don't have the work here. And not without having the money to buy this, we get the credits, and the IMF says that okay, let's have the moratorium, prohibition on the moratorium, cancel the moratorium on the export of timber, for example, and then we will give a credit to you. So it's each industry has some trick in this level, but we have everything for export, and even in IT, we are the raw materials country now. 70% is outsourcing and outstuff. Well, that is not bad. That is a good basis because we have developed this practical segment and class of engineers and programmers, but we have to move on and on. Don't have to stop here. Why do we have to sell just the summer ready product to buy ready commodity, finished commodity abroad? If we take the neighboring countries, even, well, Belarus, so we send the programmers there Viber or the games, so we have them from Belarus. Well, it's just this. We ignore those facts and neglect them, but we have to take them into account. Therefore, Gary Jacobs is absolutely right, and he's one of the highly authoritative and reputable persons in the world. He's a consultant of different governments in terms of new jobs creation, and his program in India helped to create 100 million of jobs. Well, for India, it's a different scale than for Ukraine, but that's quite a lot, absolutely a lot. So I think that we have to create new jobs and we have to develop industries with higher added value. Yeah, I would like also to comment. Gary Jacobs, again, is an unestimated genius, and he lives in India. He's been living in India for 40 times. He's from a rich family. He had everything, but he just went because of his beliefs there with his wife. Uh, that was the search of his soul. I went to Himalayas. I understand why he did this. I know why the Europeans goes there, but he stayed there. I just left and came back. So definitely he's assessing the world as a different organism. And when he says that we have to raise the efficiency of agriculture, his words may be interpreted in a different way. Some people will say that, yes, we are trying to increase the yield in 10 years twice, and Ukraine will produce more cereals. So, well, sorry guys, the price of cereals and of grains in 10 years is going to be fluctuating from 150 and $300. So it means that 50 years ago that was okay. Oh, the price was 240, now it's 159 of the ton of grains. But the yield was lower than just we could still from hectare get $600. Now we get $1,000. But Jacobs is talking about a different thing, about gardening, about orchards, about different efficiency level. The difference is that only SMEs could deal with the farms, with orchards, with gardens. They will be looking for those 20 hectares of apples and to sell them by joining into association cooperatives. But you can also produce from nuts, oil, and some other products. So these are absolutely different things. When we're talking about productivity in agriculture can be improved not twice but 10 times if we talk about the businesses like this. And if we talk about aquaponics and hydroponics and all the things which don't require black soil. We have a lot of black soil, and this is a richness of ours. But this makes us feel relaxed. The Dutch people don't have black soil, therefore they have high tech in agribusiness, and they are ahead of Italians and us with the productivity and uh, with their productivity. As far as the direction, the vector, just the branch vector, which was mentioned by Andrei during the interview. So 20 years ago, Ukraine imported sunflower oil, and there were some steps taken to have the higher import duty for the sunflower seeds by some higher rate. It was 70 or 23, something like this. So quite a large one. And now we have the industry, oil production industry. We have a niche of 55% in the world. We have $4 billion dollars of export in this item. Well, there is the eco-friendly aspect here, but this is a direction of movement. So what would be better to produce these sunflower seeds and to buy the ready-made oil, which is much more expensive to do the way we did. So this is the general vector, but we could be looking for different export points, and then we could become better in terms of the level of prosperity. And Jacobs is talking about release of energy of the companies and of the countries. That is the where the added value appears. But what do we do if we apply a different approach? well, you are all young, you're all creative, and you're a businessman, and he's saying that you can release this energy and you can provide by providing the opportunities to apply it. If not, then you cannot release it. Then you can keep everybody in the concentration camp. It was the way it was in the Soviet Union, but that is not going to happen any longer, right? So we're just losing residents. So I'm in favor of agriculture, but in the form I'm telling you about. Thank you. There is then another question. The microphone, please. Alexei Maronetsky. It seems to me a peculiarity of public rhetorics is the use of words like to develop, to promote, strategy, program, improve. For me, the key to the forum functions is the panel on corruption, where one of the representatives said that you can develop a lot of strategies or you can develop just a one-page step or action plan which will drastically change the development of the country. So I would like to address all the speakers. Just if you avoid those words like improve, promote, just mention two or three specific steps which could is a decision that could be made right away in order to change something in the system for the system to start working in a new way, in a very quick way. Thank you. Thank you, Ola. So the first drastic step, which would give good result, is to have the judicial reform. I mean, to have young, fair, independent, impartial judges. And this would change the country drastically. As far as the corruption is concerned, I don't think that we have to live with the illusion. Corruption is never be going to overcome. You cannot overcome it. You can just reduce it due to certain steps, starting with education, small and science, to small kids, to the university bench. And I have the maniac idea, but I think it has the right to live. In our school education, children starting with the ninth form, maybe even with the eighth form, lack the subject dealing with business, with entrepreneurship activity, how to carry it out, how to organize it. At school you are taught what corruption is and how evil it is in the economy, then there won't be progress. But if the child knows that the parents come and give some bribe to the teachers, and the parent and well, the child will grow up and will be the same. So we have to eradicate corruption not by forceful methods, but by teaching people to become real citizens and individuals, and for them to know how to correctly regulate their state, their economy. Economy is the Greek word economia, which is correct regulation, correct economy, correct doing of things. So that's what we have to teach to children. And then we have the change of the whole country. Yeah, a long recipe, but the correct one. So the three steps of mine, a great problem for Ukraine, for the Ukrainian society, including the people who are gathering those politicians, is availability of the double policy. Like, okay, we cannot, for example, steal the things, but we will violate some deadlines, let's say. So we will do the same, but in a different way. And so we are good at finding the roundabout ways of evading things. Uh, Now, we have to fight corruption in the area where it impedes business. We know where there is a land plot owned by the person, and even if you buy the key and you come there in the morning, but everything is transparent, even if you enter this area, there will be some law enforcement agencies involved in this business then. Then, schools and new technologies. The tablet shouldn't be used at schools, it seems to me, in KIEF. They don't use it, right? The tablets are not used, but they want to be textbooks. But they say that okay, but there are tablets. There are that they are used in all the countries of the world. But the teachers actually tell that no, the textbook should be necessary. They have to be approved by the ministries, and you have to take those textbooks. And you know that there are some strange things in those textbooks. And the third point is that, well, sorry, but we forget about the state. We forget that on the planet there are a lot of states. States are not dying out, and they will not die out within the fourth industrial revolution. It means that within the GDP structure and within the environment, from the point of view of the demand, there is a certain level of investment, and the states must have certain programs of development. Ukraine is a poor country which has overslept some points of time when it was possible for it to fill some niches. But we must now develop strategies, and we now must have some plans, and which will be, for example, for 5 years, and they cannot be revoked. They cannot be changed. You like it, okay. You don't like it, still okay. They cannot be changed, right? So, but there must be not that many of those programs. But just if we have too many, we won't have any concentration of the resources. We must have narrow concentration of resources with transparency, and that would be a good recipe. Yes, good, Victor. Well, I do agree with Oleg that such a radical approach to there should be a radical approach to the judiciary system reform and prosecutor's office reform. But on the other hand, if we have a look at the basic things, well, I think that we have to focus on the development of the human capital. Here I'm talking about education because we have to be at on the global competitive level, not just to reform it, uh, to just to change the content, but to change the forms for the children to be interested in learning English, in learning this multiplication table. You know, my experience in Colorado started when I was called a populist. And when we were forming the coalition agreement and we made the proposal, and it was well substantiated that a part of the international technical aid has to be used for teaching English in the kindergartens. But I won't tell you the names of people who said that you take populist action. What kind of English you're talking about from kindergarten? First of all, these are people, and this is work at competences for us to become globally competent nation. And the thing is, what we were talking uh, about. This is the creation of the economic conditions for business that will make us competitive in comparison to other countries. And there is a whole complex of that. Uh, the cost of credits, and we don't have to get abstracted from this. We have to take this into account because otherwise nothing will happen. And I think that if we perform certain of those conditions, everything is going to be okay. We have rich resources, and this enables us to form the efficient state policy. We just now lack the reserves, we lack the resources of richness, including natural resources. With us, it's very long, but I'm sure that everything depends on the human factor.
So in English?
Sure. Пане, пане Володимир,
Добре,
короткий
я-
рецепт, короткий.
Ні, ну я 3 маю право.
Так.
Just a short recipe. We have the quick wins business in a concept in business. It is not a program and notion, but this quick win is a success story. Number one, you can achieve them, right? Number one is you have to punish Mr. Pinzanik, who was the Minister of Finance, and Mrs. Tymoshenko, just in in the form of some public scolding for the liquidation of special economic areas in 2005, and to restore those three areas which were created, which were successful, and which showed that which showed a very high factor of involved investment and profit of the companies, like 1 to 2, 1 to 4. That was Yavoriv area, that was the Transcarpathia area, and one more special economic area. I've forgotten about that. And we can also publicly somehow encode these zones like Donetsk zone and some other ones, because now we have war. We actually don't know why is this war, what is this war is about. I don't know why those areas were closed, but that would be a good quick win that would show the foreign investors who were promised a 30 years existence of those zones that, though not quickly and not though in time, the truth is restored. Another quick win, and I'm glad that you suggested, is the fund of development in any form. You can take it like Dan Chapman talked about this. He said that if the government doesn't want to respond, it doesn't like its country, it does want to invest at least 1%, 2% into the project where we are invited, we cannot take over the project. That's why they're talking about this small investment on behalf of the government, but the government should be a partner to foreign investments, and this money could be used for the creation of cosmic aerospace cluster, and let's not allow the gangsters who are stealing their patents from in this aerospace um, industry, and don't allow us to develop in this sphere. This is the second quick win. As far as corruption, anti-corruption, and anti-radar campaigns are concerned, so well, just a couple of 10-year cases with 10-year imprisonment and handcuffs, and that would show the investors that it is not just that we have dismissed some judges, so we have done this and that. No, that would be a tough punishment, and these are not just populistic actions. So we are just providing those such quick wins, and concerning speaking English, well, really, that is the voluntaristic action. It's good that we're talking about the new priorities and about the second official language being English. It would be a tough step because there is no funding, but we will find it. We have to have a good PR campaign for that. And I was writing once an article, so let's do English, the second language, official language, instead of the Russian one. That would be a great step towards technologies, and over 5 years, everything would have changed. But such a step requires funding, while there were also some steps in terms of privatization of some companies that could be actually done without any funding. We have Mike Wall, another consultant at the Czech government, and they were doing privatization instead of the state property fund. And they actually were preparing the plan for the government, and the government was just signing. They were they were looking for the solutions as come and then not the state property fund, not the state property agency was doing this. There are a lot of things connected with privatization. For example, let's privatize some companies, 10 of them, only 10 of them. That is going to be a quick win because we're going to show the success story, the success cases. We will show something to investors. There was also Stepan Kubiev, but we didn't disclose what he was talking about him, about their story when the real money came into the budget, because just he didn't have enough time to attack it, the same as a lot of our speakers. And through those quick wins, people would see that changes, things are changes. And as far as ports are concerned, we have a lot of investors, and for the ports sector, for the agricultural sector, but just we have to remove gangsters from those ports and from agriculture. It should be privatized by real people, and that would be real money. Here is the question. Well, you feel that you are not a liberal because you don't say that instead of when that it should be instead of the Russian language of the second official language. You should know both this language and that language. Well, my article is on the internet, and when I was talking about two languages, I said that okay, let's have duality of languages, the way they have in India, Ukrainian and English. That you know that Indian people, well, they have a terrible English pronunciation, terrible accent, but that is the official language. That is another point of a discussion. I'm from the Center of Economic Discussion. I've just remarked that this is more of a discussion about the level of productive forces. How do we produce an effective product? But who is going to produce this? Who is going to do this? And we have to talk about how to create the creative thinking of uh, employees. Nobody has mentioned the way you are investing into trainings for employees, into their self-motivation, self-development, creative thinking development. So we are talking about the forces, but what about the internal relationship within businesses? We had the factor about the holacracies, that one of the speakers was the supporter of holacracies, but a lot of people don't know about the modifications of holacracy, that the trends towards the level of motivation and freedom and responsibility of employees in the world. So we cannot build up the economy with people with the Soviet type mentality who are endeavoring to get job. We have to improve the level of relationship and not just have physical industrialization via technologies. We have to modernize the thinking, in particular the thinking of the people, of the vice rate of the society who work at those plants. We have to invest into them. This is the basic investment in the world. So probably in the future we should focus more on investing into employees and their creative thinking. Thank you. The next question. I've just a suggestion, not more a question. The first comment. So if we are so smart, why are we so poor? And then yesterday there was a panel where there was the CEO of one of the companies who uh, told in detail how he actually provides motivation for all of his staff, for his company to increase their productivity. And that was discussed for about 2 hours. But just not all the people have had a chance to come to this panel. It seems to me that this is happening because the main part of our government and our deputies just follow the principle which was voiced in one of the Soviet movies about the flute, the forgotten melody of the flute, that we are proud of the facts which we have built up, and nevertheless, whether we don't care whether they are good or bad. It seems to me that a lot of things have been voiced at this forum. People are already experienced. We already know what the problems are, but we have to do something about this. So it seems to me that Ukraine is our child, and we have to take care of all of its problems. But I went to the Dallas one room. There were 100. There was the round table of metallurgy, and it was absolutely empty. So 12 chairs and not a single person, which shows that now metallurgy and metallurgy processing belongs to large companies which are not interested in the problems which are discussed here. Here we have SMEs which actually make up the whole economy of the country. And unification of all the solutions into and all the issues into the general declarative document, and it could be given as a resolution to the Verkhovna Rada and voiced in mass media for everybody to see that we can be rich, the whole country. Not we personally, but the whole country can be rich. It will help us, I think. Maybe those examples will somehow help us, and somebody will do something about that. Yeah, perfect. Can I have some small reflection on that? Yeah, I'm going also to have small reflection. Maybe I talk too much, yes, but that's a good suggestion, but it's a little bit outdated, I would say. Why do we have this forum in general? Why do we have this platform? Why do we have this ground? Because we tried to, uh, for to Mr. Jacobs. Uh, well, I've 3 times. There is an anecdote that I've told my students 3 times. I've myself understood it, but they are stupid. They have not yet understood it. And Gary Jacobs told a very interesting thing that we have the CEO Club where we have the capital from $10 million up, and it's reflected. Um, these ideas of the club, and he said that the problem of education is that in education, in their world, the teacher is getting the most in the process of education because the teachers are developing, and the more they do, the more they win out of that, the more they learn. Uh, but we have a very difficult situation with this. You know, you will Google it, you Google this issue, you will see it, but you know, the deputies normally don't read a lot. They are too busy. Therefore, we have to provide specific steps to them because otherwise they will just tell one key phrase, which is the ordinary trivial phrase. Victor knows what those phrases normally are. So, well, I don't think that we can have one declarative resolution like this because it's like from season to season. And up till the new season, that's we will have small roundtable discussions, and we will have some documents, but that these should be separate documents in separate spheres. And luckily, that some deputies are taking them and trying to move on with them. But you know, the process of implementation is highly complicated. We will try to do some unified document, but you will see it online and you can actually share it because you are the our um, force, and if you find some ideas, you can influence something because you can promote all those ideas further on. And you remember the situation without Mr. Ahmedov. He said that I will buy the parliament for a song. Well, if you buy all the deputies, it would be just a small amount of money. Mr. Ahmedov really had the money, and the figure was discussed absolutely adequately. So it's funny, but it's a reality that you can buy the voting. Victor, will you comment? Yes, I will. I will comment. You know, a very good question. Why are we then so poor if we're so smart? My impression is that if we take all the components which are necessary for success, they are all available. All the resources, including people, so including HR, including resource. We don't lack anything for this development. And we just have the traditional divergence with the establishment. I won't tell you the elite, I will call it the establishment. Unfortunately, traditional with this system in terms of personal interests and the interest of the state. How do we coordinate those interests? Well, it's very complicated. It's a philosophy issue. And I don't think that we could give any specific examples. You know about them. And there are a lot of deputies and governors who whose families live abroad, which is already strange. And even some people have other foreign passports, their identity, their citizenships of other countries. And I think that gradually, in some way, through the election, we will select the establishments for the establishment to have the critical mass who will link their personal experience to the experience of the country, and who will have this level of ambition, such a high level of ambition that they wouldn't think about their personal pocket. I think that this is happening, but happening very gradually. And I do agree that this process should be quicker, should be accelerated. It's not important to impose something on somebody, because sometimes we just realize that we think that people don't realize something, but we just bring the presentations and they will tell, oh, how happy we are in such a perfect room and we already know everything, but it doesn't work. If the person has a certain internal view, a certain face, a belief, then there starts joint action. And I think that the forum as a platform, as a network of joint action, is a much more important thing than the formal document or formal documentation. Though I'm also not rejecting this idea, because that may also be the case. Well, I don't have a good attitude to declarations, because just imagine that you are a member of the executive union of the multi-storied building, and you will write a petition that level of the standard of living is bad, and you will go to the neighboring shops and ask for money. Well, you will just cry, but you will either collect the money yourself, or you will find the person responsible for that, or you will vote for something, so for the mayor who will help you with this. This is the solution provided by the civil society. So it seems to me that unfortunately that this is where we are going in the wrong direction. As far as production relationship is concerned, so primarily we are talking about the productive forces, because the schools are the basis, and we have really to coordinate the steps of schools with the modern requirements, because really the teachers have to learn themselves, and knowledge which is available now will be different in 10 years. I mean, the knowledge we need will be absolutely different. That was awful. And you can see that in about 70 years, well, you can see the current biology textbook, and you can compare it with what you learned, and a lot of things have changed. Uh, so as far as retraining is concerned, Ukraine will have to get retrained, and every producer, every business who is trying to organize his business in the right way will tell you that yes, we're paying great attention to retraining, not in the sense of social activity of business or a social responsibility to get an award from the government. No, we're doing this because we are retraining the people coming to us, and a lot of people are claiming that okay, take the production companies and we will better take the students who are not yet distorted by the life, and we will show the basic knowledge to them, and they will absorb this knowledge. They know the computer technologies. They will show the modern reality to them, and they will teach them how to work with modern lasers and benches. Therefore, as far as retraining is concerned, I think that the corporations that are working with Ukraine won't work with this issue. They do more with retraining of the younger generation, because the higher educational establishment are also moving with us in a little bit different direction. Not in all the universities, but still. The questions? Maybe two or three more questions, and that will be it. I don't know whether it's a question, maybe it's just a remark. I wanted to get back and to talk about corruption, about the corruption of export of our products. These are more the questions to you, Victor, I guess. Uh, the only moment the problem arises, we are talking about the need to adopt a new law and create a new agency inside the institution. At the same time, we can just introduce amendments into the available laws because we have a lot of laws, and creation of new institutions and addition of functions to them to the available institutions. Maybe to set up new agencies, new committees, state agencies as an additional load. Maybe it's better to, in terms of the state budget, to reshape what we have and to just add additional functions, but not to set up new committees. This is simple economy. So will it be efficient to create those agencies, or will it just be additional load on the state budget? It seems to me that today it's expedient to talk primarily about reduction of the barriers, of administrative barriers for the development of business. Some of them have to be eliminated, some have to be reduced. I know that the work is being done and there are some positive achievements in this sphere, but we have to move along this way because this is the basis for corruption, and this creates impediments both for the production of our products in the internal market and for the export of products. And if we remove or reduce those barriers, so this will be the reduction of the load on the state budget because a lot of public entities just will stop existing. Secondly, there will not be conditions for corruption because there will not be no basis for that, and that will create favorable conditions for the development of entrepreneurship and for business development. That will develop competition in the internal market, and you know that competition is the greatest force which will stimulate business. Where do you work, by the way? Not in the state agency? No, I'm representative of education and science from the Shevchenkov University, and this is the faculty of economics. Okay, let me answer the question. Yes, I've had your question. Thank you for the question. Um, uh, we are systemically working at the removal of barriers on the way to export and involvement of investment. And next week, for example, we will implement a number of draft laws which will limit the restrictions set by the National Bank for the currency process. That is a radical element. Then we will remove this 2% fee, 4496. This is the number of the law. But you know that Ukrainian export credit agency is going to be an impediment for the countries which are our competitors. Why? I'm giving to I'm going to give you an example because you know we are based on the best world experience and the best practices, and we worked with the Press Interhouse Coopers company, and we studied their experience. And you know that in Canada we have the Export Credit Agency, and due to the activity, it ensures additional $62 billion, which form the GDP, $62 billion. So we have to realize that our nominal GDP is about 80 billion, right? But in Canada, only due to the activity of the ECAO, this agency, they have this growth of GDP. I'm not talking about any other country. In Europe, there are three countries which don't have this agency: Moldova, Albania, and Ukraine. So it seems to me that this is not a matter for discussion. I had a meeting with Mr. Cox, and he said that you can change people, you can replace people, but if you don't create the system, a different system of efficient institutions, you will never ever change the situation and get the results. So therefore, we are talking about their change of the system of raw materials country to taking the producers and stimulating the final product generation, which would be export oriented. We realize all the more You, as educators, you know this consensus of the year 1978, which presupposes the foundation for the existence of export credit agencies, which really influence the regional balance and the GDP of well-developed countries. So we are moving to stop being a tribe but becoming their entities, the subjects on the world economic arena, not to the state budget but due to the donor funding, and which is now either embezzled or stealed, or we just don't see the result. And the last question which you raised, do you know how much international technical aid has been received by Ukraine over the period of its independence? The grants, which we don't have to pay back, $9 billion. $9 billion is the amount by which we can build a successful country, but we don't see a successful country. So we are undergoing some consultations with our international partners. I've provided the inquiry to the Ministry of Economy, and we just got the absolutely stupid response. And we will start talking about this technical aid, because partners think that they help us, but they don't. And we would like to find those people whom they really help. Therefore, we would in this way create a mutually beneficial relationship, and there will be no losses for the state budget. That will not be additional load. Thank you. Volodymyr would like to add. Yes, I would like to give the answer in figures to the professor. If you are a professor of economics, so you may get interested in this. The factor of insurance of export risks, the factor is 1 to 20. 1 to 20. It means that the losses which are available if we have the export, according to statistics, have must be no more than 5%, and it fluctuates from 1% in the period where we have the ups, and the increase in the scope in the volume up to 7% when there is a period of downs and crisis. For example, in the recession period of 2008, due to export credit agency you will know of, that would accompany crediting of consumer, of the target consumer. And now in Turkey, there exists what you also learn at the university. This is export via investment. For example, Turkey is ready to invest $300 million via a specialized bank just into Ukraine, in the form of the investment into production, which will be less technological, but which will use the technologies which are developed in Turkey. This means export of Turkish technologies. They are a little bit a step higher than we are in this respect. And getting back to the first item first, removal of barriers. You were taught according to archaic textbooks, but removal of barriers is not only in one way, but it may be in the way when, for example, there is a step and you raise the child, helping it to step on the next staircase. This is also removal of barriers, and the tools we are using, and I've mentioned, are also presuppose removal of barriers. For the anti-competition, this is the most complicated thing, and because of the old rhetorics, we cannot even think of the fact that this impedes our competition. Our competition companies cannot compete with foreign companies, even having the same technologies, if we don't remove those barriers to the competition. So these are the barriers you can teach your students about, because your ideas about the barriers are outdated. Thank you. Just a couple of more questions. We will continue this discussion, right? Yes, I will also comment on your speech, and I will ask a question. So why 500 million people saw this the new situation, that there was no fascism, but now, according to Taras, people have seen that there are fascists in Ukraine. So, when we are talking, why should we once again talk about this. So in 2009, when we started this whole discussion, we had less than 1%, and everybody said that the market is quite good, the situation is improving. Now we really have more, and we have the School of Economics, which is a little bit outdated, right? And even in that School of Economics, they are not talking about the investment, free investment, resources, material resources, human resources, about the agencies for sort of talents created by the state, and then the Olympic Games. In some countries, when the children win in the Olympiads at school, already a monitoring of the children is done for the people not to take them not to have this brain drain of smart children from the country. And the regulation is necessary. You have to work with monopolies. You have the correct regulators, energy, financial services, anti-corruption component, but it's insufficient. We also need to have in the focus of our attention the tools of support, and don't reinvent the wheel, but just show the things which are available in the neighboring countries and in successful countries like the US, South Korea. And we have to invite people to such discussions. Because we just claim that the regulation will settle all the things. No, it will not. Just show at least one country of the world which became a success, and you can share it from your. They could share it from their experience. Maybe it could done within different platforms, because the key idea is the fight between the two paradigms, where one of the paradigms is that we have to copy the free paradigms, and this is a good approach. This is the right approach. But we cannot be negative about industrial parks, about any new agencies, about any new bodies, uh, because the gun depends on in whose hands it is. In the patriots' hands it's okay. In the gangsters' hands it's a bad thing. So we have to have regulation. Well, all the countries think that they have corrupted system, but the level of corruption is different. And with us, we are sad that at the customs we have the free trade, free economic areas, but where they were liquidated. But that was not the most important thing. Well, we could continue it within the informal discussion, but I don't know. Maybe that is the question to Taras. So the question is the following: how do we arrange the discussion for us to, as quickly as possible, uh, uh, show the honest people who are forgotten, who really believe in free trade, who they don't understand a lot of things. They're just are illiterate in the financial sphere, on the sphere of economics, and they believe in this civilization export. And we need this debate. We need those awareness raising campaigns, I guess. Well, the recipe is very simple for those successful people, because they have been to be taken here and to tell us a lot of things. But the problem of a lot of forums is that people come here, sorry, just to trade with their faces. And then they like it in Facebook. Okay, I was here, and they write a small post. But forums must be proactive. They must produce further following steps and actions. Today is the final day of the forum, and tomorrow the reality is kept on, but not on the basis of the declarations available on the site, but on the basis of certain programs and action plans of what we were talking about today, and all the ideas and the discourses which were voiced here already in practice. And old Greeks also had the forums, and they discussed the problems of the polis of the city. But they did just discuss; they acted after that. They implemented some practical steps to improve the quality of their life. And this is the dedication of our forum, any forum, be it here, be it in Dubai. And after we finish lunch today or something like this, so we have not just to write the declaration, but to supervise certain programs of development which would capitalize what was invented over those 2 days. And this could be a recipe, and that's these people by those elaborated programs will come here and share their recipes and will motivate other people. But if the president of Ukraine, after he gets such a necessary tranche from the IMF, comes down, all the Ukrainians that we have got this tranche and everybody's come down, okay, so we're not lost. Why doesn't the president, for example, in his address say about the successful startup and about the Ukrainians where implementing their potential somewhere or the products where somebody has produced in some private sector? I think that this is a piece of advice to our speechwriters for the president or those who are dealing with communication with the with media. You have to communicate successful cases, success stories, and bring those people here for them to charge you with their positive energy. Sorry for repeating the idea, but my problem is that we are not organized, we are disorganized. We have to do this on the personal level, and then this will come. And by our fruit, we will be known as to who we are. So we are pressed for time, but we have reached our aim. We are a permanent, ongoing platform for the dialogue, and we have made some conclusions. And I think that the legislative authorities and the authorities have heard that. Thank you for attention, and let's move over to informal communication. Thank you.